Welcome to Tyrompers No Limit Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you so much for joining Tyrompers No Limit Podcast. This is episode number 57. Guys, we are so fired up today. We have a woman that is a TV shopping host. She is a nonprofit founder. She is a fantastic mom of two. She's into living a healthy lifestyle and just completed 75 hard. Can't wait to talk to her about that. She's adopted two amazing children. She lives in Tennessee. Every interaction I've ever had with our guest today has been so positive. She's one of my favorite all-time people on Twitter. You cannot have a conversation with her without feeling better after you leave. So I'm excited for you guys to get to know today our awesome guest. Thank you for coming on, Miss Lori Santoro. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm so excited. The whole time we've been talking about this, I've just been really excited to be able to talk to you and get to know you and everything like that. So I'm super pumped.
Well, thank you so much. Well, for anybody who follows me, we interact a ton on Twitter and we kind of have that same community, Cynthia Thurlow, and a lot of us are always kind of in the same streets on Twitter. But for anybody who might not know a little bit about you, you kind of give people a backstory, who you are and what you're about, Lori.
Well, I live in Tennessee. I've got two wonderful daughters. One is 22 and one is 17. And we've talked a lot about adoption, and both of them are adopted. I have a big former life in television and still do some of it every once in a while. And I started a nonprofit, and it'll be actually 23 years old this year in 2023. So it's been going on for a long time. And so I'm just I do a lot of different things. And, my main thing really in life is just focused on being a great mom. And then everything else comes after that. So that's kind of been my life since we've had kids. But yeah, so I'm into the nonprofit world. I'm no longer a shopping host, but I did do that for several years, and I still do some things from time to time. So I'm still in it a little bit, but not as it used to be my main career. And so, yeah, other than that, I love to travel, and I'm super into all the healthy lifestyle, healthy eating, and doing 75 hard, and just kind of trying to better myself every day. So
that's pretty clear, because you say you got a 21-year-old kid, but you look like you're 31. So good for you're
I'm not 31. I'm nowhere near 31, but I have a 22-year-old and a 17-year-old. And you know what? They keep me young, because you have to be when you're. Both of them are very into their sports. They've been into them all their life. We have two high maintenance sports. So our older one is an equestrian, our younger one is an ice skater, and we constantly go. We went all our life with our older one, growing up in horses, and she still rides and she still competes, and she's amazing. And then our younger one, the same thing in ice skating. So we stay super busy with going and doing all the time. So
kids have a good way of keeping you active, man. Before we always joke, before we had kids, we'd be like, oh, we're so busy today. And now we look back at that and we're like, busy was like meeting a friend for dinner and getting the mail.
Yeah.
You don't know what busy is until you have a bunch of kids,
It's a whole different world, and it never ends. I know yours are little, and I hope to meet him one day, because your daughter is just like, I think we have things in common. But
definitely have
never
that fashionista sense.
The fashionista, yes. I'm always checking out her style, and it's always fabulous on Twitter. But definitely it really never changes when they get older, because then they're just into their own thing, and then you're going to watch them, and you're going to do, and so it's awesome though. It's what it's all about. I don't know what we would be or where we would be in life without our kids. It's just fantastic.
It's the biggest blessing in the world. I think there's so many things I relate to you and resonate with you with. I think right away, number one, we've both adopted, and we have that in common. You've done the nonprofit. My wife is very much in the nonprofit world. She's had charity for 15 years, and I want to get into more of that later. Can we start with, because I'm very interested in this. So what was your childhood like, upbringing, and how do you get into like just becoming a TV host, like a TV hostess and modeling and all this stuff? How did that happen?
So, if we're going back that far, my childhood was great. I'm an only child.
Okay.
So, really close with my parents. My father has passed away. So it's just my mother, but really close family. Did a lot of traveling when I grew up because my dad was a scientist. So he traveled all over the place. So we traveled all over the place. So it was great. Kind of my focus growing up from really age 5 to even into my 20s was dance. And I was a dancer all my life. And right after high school graduation, went to Europe and danced and studied and did all that. And then came back later and went to college. But so I really, that's a huge part of my life. Even still, I don't really dance anymore. I dance in the living room. I don't really dance on stage or a ballet or anything anymore. But I love it. It's a big part of my life. And of course, I tried to get my girls into it, and they both danced for a little bit, but they found their own passions and they found their own niche, and it's been wonderful for both of them. So that was kind of my growing up life. And then it was kind of late in high school. I just started doing some modeling, and it just kind of got more and more, and kind of did that through college. And then after I graduated from college, I spent like a year in what I did as my degree, which was graphic design. And I was like, I'm just not cut out really to sit in a cubicle and stare at a computer, or actually then it wasn't even computers. I was doing other types of design. And so I just went back into it really pretty hot and heavy, and kind of just did the scene in the South. So I made, I wasn't in New York or anything, and I wasn't on the runway because I'm not very tall. So, but I did a whole lot of commercial work and a whole lot of print work, like catalog modeling and things like that, and made a really good workable career out of it, and kind of did the Nashville, Atlanta, Knoxville, other, North Carolina scene. And there was a lot of work at the time when I worked in the South. So I stayed really, really busy. And that just segued into television, just auditioning for stuff. So lots of commercials, lots of industrial films, a couple of films. And then the home shopping stuff, which I never planned to do, but I just landed in it and did that for a few years. So it was fun, and I enjoyed it, but probably wasn't going to be something I wanted to do forever. So
it's a neat, like a really cool career path. And that's funny that you say, I hear this all the time. People go to college, they get that degree. I think it's almost kind of silly. We send our kids at 18. I didn't know what I want to do at 18, but you spend $100,000 and then you turned out I don't really like this thing. This other area makes me feel.
I mean, I'm a total believer. You do not have to go to college to be very successful. It's more important to kind of know what you want to do. There's definitely things that you need to go for. You're probably not going to be a doctor or a nurse, if you're not going to go to college. But there's other things I kind of think you don't have to do. But at the time, that's what I did. I came back from Europe and I still wanted to dance, but it was, I just wanted to do other things too, and wanted to try other things too. And so I kind of just went into what I was naturally good at, and that's okay. But I really sort of wish, I'm interested in so many things, and I just sort of went into what I like to do and what really more what I was good at. But I was always finding myself taking all these electives and all these different worlds, But anyway, I got the degree and I did do it for a while, but it just wasn't my thing. I'm so, I'm more of a people person. So
that's quite apparent.
I just went into other things, and I just went into other things, and there was my path,
That's super awesome. What was it like going over to Europe then? Like, I assume you were alone, your folks didn't go. And so you're just over in Europe. You didn't know anybody.
They didn't go, but I went with a dance company.
Okay.
So they didn't go, but I had been many times before anyway, because my dad traveled a lot in Europe. And so I'd been to Europe before. It wasn't like new or anything when I went. And then actually later, my parents ended up living in Germany for 6 years. So I mean, I've been back and forth a lot, but so that was the dance company that I grew up in. We went over there to study and to perform, and it was an amazing experience. It really was. I mean, amazing. I wish I could do it all again.
to chase your dreams and go do something you're so passionate about at a young age.
Yeah.
Like just do something that really fills you up and makes you feel alive and you feel like you're great at. That's really awesome. What was it, like ballet, or what kind of dance was it?
I went with a ballet company, and I did study ballet most of my life, but I was more of a jazz and modern dancer. So when we got to Europe, I sort of branched off a little bit and studied that part of dance way more than the rest of the group that I was with. So my main things growing up were jazz, modern, and tap. And I taught tap for a while. So, but I traveled there with the ballet company, which I did do ballet, but I wasn't like the prima ballerina. I was just dancing and I would do ballet. But, I had an interest in other types of dance. So we got over to Europe and we studied everything, so.
That's a really amazing story. You remind me of my wife so much too. She was dancer and she was on, did dance, and she's been begging our daughter to get into dance, and she's got her to sign up for a few classes, but our daughter's more into like robotics and some other things.
Yeah. I mean,
you got to let your kids follow what they want, right?
That's exactly it. You sort of like when they're young, sort of put them in things and let them try different things. And then they're naturally just going to find their way. Yeah. They're naturally going to find their way. Like our oldest one, we put her in dance when she was very young, and I thought, oh, have a little dancer, and then we went out of town and we did like this little trail ride on horses. I think she was 5 or 6, and we never heard anything else in our life again but horses, ponies. And but she was naturally amazing. Like from the first time we put her on the pony, it was just natural for her, and she just loved it. And so we got home, we were on a vacation, and we got home from that, and we said, she'll just do a few pony rides. No, before you know it, she's in the circuit, she's traveling, we're traveling, she's doing all the pony, she's winning. And
so does she do like barrel racing, or because my mom was into racing horses too? And do you ride as well?
I have ridden, but I'm not like my daughter. I can get on and ride a horse, but I'm not like her. But no, she's into hunter jumper. So she's an English equestrian hunter jumper. So she's done hunter jumper and dressage. And so currently, I have to brag on her, because currently meaning the past couple of years, she's taken a very young Arabian horse, and she's kind of gotten into this Arabian division of horses, because there's all these different divisions. And she's taken this young horse that's never been in the show circuit and gotten him into the show circuit, and they've made nationals twice. And she just left nationals in September with a national reserve champion and trophy and everything. I mean, she's done amazing, but she has boxes of ribbons. She's just a natural, amazing rider. And it was kind of the same story with our younger daughter with ice skating. And she kind of found that a little bit like, she's very petite and kind of struggled to figure out what sport she would be good at. And she danced, didn't love it, liked it, but same thing with her. She went ice skating one day and it just fit, and she just loved it. And she's a supernatural at it, and wants to do Disney on ice, and wants to go for it probably as a career. So it's just amazing when they find their things and they're so good at it, and it builds their confidence, and and they love it, and they feel accomplished in it, and they find something that they're working really hard in, because both those sports, like every sport, but both those especially, it's not only they're working so hard in it, but it is such a major family commitment.
Yeah, ice skating. I had a good friend that ice skated. I mean, she was up before in high school and junior high. We were really good friends. She would wake up at 4:30 in the morning in junior high. Yeah, on the ice, and then after school again, she was on the ice. That's
my younger daughter. Yeah. She drives now, and I could not be happier. I've been getting up at 4. Everybody on Twitter is like, "Are you up early doing your thing? Meditating, whatever?" And I'm like, "I'm up early, freezing at an ice rink." Yes, I'm up early. Her, but it's great. It's wonderful.
That is cool, and I love the point you make, and I think we connect a lot too, because like I just see the passion you have for your kids, and it's to me and my wife, we talk about this a lot. We want to just expose our kids to as much as we can.
Yeah,
it's so neat to see when that light bulb goes off, and our daughter's only 7, but you put math in front of her. She is. I mean, I'm going to brag on her for a minute. She's 7 years old, and she is doing multivariate algebraic equations.
That's amazing.
Freshman year in high school, stuff that I mean, I don't want to admit it, but I can. My wife has to help her.
Yeah, you're like, go find something else from that.
But it's cool cool to see. And she's really into robotics club and doing a lot of these
That's
like
awesome.
things, right? And you want them,
Yeah,
when you see those little light bulbs click, you want them to go with their passion, whatever that might be, you know?
absolutely. Whatever that might be. And I have to say that I knew a little bit about horses and I have ridden. So it wasn't totally foreign to me when my daughter started riding horses, but her world is so much bigger than what I've ever done. I mean, she is a rider, like she is a competition winning
Yeah, if you're
rider,
going to nationals and winning, you
so
got to be pretty good, right?
yeah, she's good and amazing. And then my younger daughter, like ice skating is very much like dance, but then it's on ice. So I had to learn all about ice skating. So it was fun kind of trying. It was fun because I've been able to live in those two worlds that weren't my world, but kind of make it my world, you know. So I sew costumes, bead costumes, you know, I was horse mom carrying buckets for years when, you know, when our older one was young, and it's great, you know, it's fantastic.
Yeah, there's nothing better, I think, you know, seeing your kids light up like that. That's awesome. And I want to kind of segue into that, you know, obviously with you growing up into dance and doing what you did, that's a very, I've never known an overweight dancer because you're burning like 6,000 calories a day.
Yeah.
But like, has health and fitness and working out always really been a central part of your life, and that you've kind of, you know, pushed on, I don't say pushed onto your kids, but they've kind of taken with them too?
Well, yeah. Oh, my kids hate when I push it on them. They're like, yeah, mom, that's awesome, but we're eating an ice cream cone. But I mean, and we all do from time to time. You have to live. I'm kind of a balanced person that way.
Sure.
I mean, you know, but yeah, I mean, obviously in dance, you have to be fit, you have to be thin, especially if you're doing certain kinds of dance, ballet for one, for sure, jazz, all of that. You have to be. What I will say, and I've kind of talked about this on Twitter a little bit, is growing up in the dance world then, you had to be thin, and modeling, you know, you had to be thin, but it wasn't really ever very healthy. You know, it wasn't healthy. It was like, get thin no matter what. You can be thin no matter what. You know, if you're going to starve yourself or whatever. Now, I didn't really do that so much, but I did do a few, you know, crazy, you know, diet type things. I'm lucky in some ways. I'm not a person that's ever really had a weight problem, but 10 pounds here or there, and that doesn't work really in the modeling world or in the dance world. So I will say that it's really only been in the past several years, you know, that I really started to focus on diet and what I felt like was really good for me and what wasn't. Because you can be thin and still not eat the right thing.
That's right.
And you can be thin and still not be fit.
That's right.
You know, you can be all of those things, but inside you're not fit, or inside you're not really eating the greatest things, you know. And so I kind of went through all that world, and then I got sick in Bolivia back in 2000, I guess 4. And so it was 2004 to 5. I was extremely sick, and we never really figured out what it was, but I was with every ologist there were: cardiologist, pulmonologist, gastroenterologist, infectious disease, you name it. We never really figured out what it was, but it affected my heart rhythm. And so I ended up pretty much with every cardiac test you can imagine. And in the end, a cardiac ablation, because what it did was mess up my heart rhythm. But through that experience, you know, everything happened when that happened. Like, you know, a lot of anxiety starts and everything, because you're thinking, I am dying. I mean, and you know, not to get off on this too long, but it was a really bad time anyway. So my father died. I went to Bolivia and I got very sick with who knows what. And on the plane ride home, we had an air incident with the plane, very serious air incident. True. There were a lot of stressors in that very short amount of time. And so, you know, I was still working through my father. He died suddenly of a brain aneurysm, very shocking. And then, you know, I was sick, and then I had this airplane thing. And
what was the airplane thing? That sounds
well, you know, I don't even know exactly what happened. Was we went through some kind of such severe turbulence up there, and I'm talking insane. I'm talking the carts flying across the plane and things coming out and the lights going off and the plane, it was very serious, and people, their babies falling off their lap, the whole 9 yards, horrible, 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 horrible experience. And so, it was bad. We took a lot of big dips and a lot of falls, altitude. Well, it was horrifying.
That sounds like the
and so all that, and I'm sick on the airplane trying to deal with this, but anyway, got home, and just through that experience of being so sick, and looking at everything health wise, because I had to, because literally, I'm not kidding you, for like 2 years, it's all I did was go from one doctor to the other to try to figure out, why is my heart going crazy and I can't function, and I'm a real high energy person, and I couldn't even get off the sofa for days on end. And anyway, we never figured it out. I had an ablation. It eventually got better. But one big thing I think that helped me get a lot better was really looking at what I ate, how I ate, little things that would just trigger whatever I had, and really just focusing on really good nutrition. And at the time, really good exercise for me, which I kind of quit everything high energy and just focused on yoga at that point in my life, and just really tried to get myself together. So I'm fine now, but it was a roller coaster for a while.
Yeah, that's wild. There's that famous saying that's I forget who said it, but it's a healthy person desires 1,000 things, but a sick only one. And I'm sure when you go through something like that, and it's got to be so frustrating on so many levels, that you're, especially from going a person like you who's dancing in famous studio, you're doing all these crazy things, flying around the world, you're high energy, you're upbeat, you're healthy, and then just like that, that's got to be so hard mentally too.
It is. When I got off the airplane from Bolivia, and I've gone back and forth to Bolivia for years because that's where my nonprofit is. So, and I've been sick there with some pretty big things, but this thing was, I don't even know. We don't know. We even have Bolivian doctors involved because we just did not know. And I don't think we're ever going to know, but whatever it was affected my heart rhythm. And so, I just had to do, I had to look at life differently, to get well. But when I got off that airplane, I'm not kidding you. I called my husband and I was like, I don't know if I can walk through this airport. I do not know if I can make it to the next connecting flight to get home, because I was so sick. But I did make it home, and little by little, I did get better. So
just that after a couple of years, you were back to 100% by like kind of diet.
Yeah. I mean, every once in a while I'll get a little rhythm thing, but I mean, yeah, I'm back to what I would say almost 100%. And, but it took a lot. It took not only the doctors trying to do what they do, but it just took me trying to just, work through things. And that, but to your point of, was I always healthy? No, I always had to be thin to dance. I always had to be thin to do modeling, but I'm not saying those things back then were always the right thing. Like, hey, let's just, not eat forever, which is different than intermittent fasting and doing things the right way. Or, let's eat carbs, or hey, this was one our dance company did. Let's just eat ice cream for 2 weeks. Well, I'm going to tell you, if you just eat ice cream for 2 weeks, you will get really thin, but you will not be healthy. No. So, I was like, this is not really the way. Yeah. So when I got sick, it really made me just focus. And since then, being connected with everyone on Twitter, I've just learned a wealth of knowledge from everyone, that we follow a lot of the same people. So everyone about what they do and how they do. And I know we both know Cynthia, but, she went through an illness too, and it made her have to look at her health. And I just think you have, everybody has a wake up call at some point, and they're like, this isn't working. I've got to get better. I've got to do it no matter what everybody else around me is trying to help me. I've got to change too. So
I think that's such a good point. I'm number one, I'm super grateful that everything worked out and you healed and got back. And I mean, that's got to be so scary, especially when you have children and you're just thinking like young kids, like
Yeah.
Like, are they not going to have a ma? There's just got to be so many
Yeah.
thoughts going through your head there that would just be so hard. But I think you bring up
Yes.
a good point too, where, I see a lot of guys I talk to that they don't take their health serious until they have the heart attack, or until
Yeah.
wife leaves them, or until fill in the blank, this big life event. And it's like, the more I think about it, we only get one body here on earth. And it just makes a lot of sense to care a lot about what we put into it, and really, trying to educate ourselves and be healthy. And there's a lot of people out there, shout out to Cynthia Thurlow, like we mentioned her, like before
Exactly.
her 4 years ago, I literally ate 2 bowls of Lucky Charms every day. It said heart healthy on it. I thought,
Yeah. You would know.
good.
Yeah.
I don't know, but once I started really learning what I actually need to put in my body to make, and I was always kind of like you said, I was thin for the most part. So I think people would have said, oh yeah, you're pretty healthy. I lifted weights some, so I had some muscle, but to really feel like you have a lot of energy and feel healthy and know that the fuel that you're putting into your body is healthy, that those are two different things, I think,
They are. I mean, they are. And nobody, no matter where you are in life, is going to get younger. So you're going to get older. And I'm a big believer in, there's sort of your age, and then there's your biological age. And I mean, I know people 30 who they're in bad shape. They're in bad shape. They're sick. They're overweight. They've got illnesses already. They're on 5 different pills. Come on, you're not 70, but you shouldn't have to live like that at 70 either,
Right.
And so, I really think we just have to do the best we can to get away from chemical foods. And that's my big thing, chemicals. And then I've learned so much about all the oils, the bad oils and things that are literally poisoning our body. And am I going to go eat an ice cream with my kids every once in a while? Yeah, I'm going to, but I'm probably not going to do it every single day of the week. And I'm really going to limit. And, I'm just not incorporating a lot of the, really hardly any. I'm not a junk food person at all. I used to be, but I'm not at all now. And so I just kind of, I just get that out of my life, and I drive my family crazy with it. And I do have a teenager, and I do have, one that's in her early 20s, and I'm sure they go to Chick-fil-A and all of that kind of stuff. But here they know that, hey, it's really not good. And it's really, pretty much try to limit it as much as possible. They're not going to find junk food in the house, when they're here. So
yeah, I think
that might happen.
What you alluded to too is we got 30-year-olds that are on 5-7 medications, and it's almost become normal. I mean, it's scary to me when we look at now. I want to say we're at 2/3 of adult Americans are considered overweight or obese. And then we're looking at how many are on medication from the time they're, and it just doesn't have to be that way. And I think, both you and I kind of had wake up calls and known that, you can take control of your life. And if you can control what you put into your mouth and your body, if you have full control over that, and you can intermittent fast and say, I might be a little hungry, but I don't need to eat right now, I have control over that. You can control any area of your life, I'm convinced,
I'm convinced too. And, it's not just adults, but, what really was shocking to me, my younger daughter goes to a very tiny high school, very small private high school. But my older daughter, who they've both been in private school, but she wanted to have the big public high school experience. So we did. But what was really shocking is the big school. When I would walk into there, you can't believe how many kids at this point are overweight. When I went to high school, I can't even name someone that was overweight. I can't. Now you walk into a high school and it's a huge amounts of young kids who are overweight and just, eating chips, drinking a Coke, not understanding where that's coming from. And I think the next generation, we're really going to have some issues if we don't get it together now, for these kids. And there's so much coming at them in the way of junk food all the time. And, but yeah, it's shocking. It's shocking to see so many young people who are overweight.
It is. My dad talked to me, and my dad were talking about that a couple of weeks ago, where he said he was looking back at his old high school pictures from, 45 years ago or whatever. And he's like, we didn't have an overweight kid. There literally wasn't an overweight.
I didn't in my high school either.
And now you kind of look at it, and so you say, well, what's changed, right? And so my thoughts are, well, you alluded to a little bit, we got the seed oils and everything, the cheap cooking oil, seed oil, it's just literal poison. The sugar industry has come in, and I think it's over 1 billion pounds of sugar we're consuming a year in the US from cereal. Breakfast cereal is just poison. It's literal poison, and people are just eating it like it's normal. I'm not judging anybody out there. I didn't know.
Yeah.
That's heart healthy. I didn't, but like, you need
Yes.
to wake up to this stuff,
Yeah, I mean, I used to eat chip. Yeah, exactly. But I think the other thing too is now fast food is literally a dinner food every day for some people. Where I know when I was younger, and I'm way older than you are, so I mean, it was like kind of a treat if you went somewhere like McDonald's. Like it was a nasty treat. We didn't really know about it at the time. But I mean, I'm not trying to down McDonald's. You can get a salad, but you couldn't then, and so it was all hamburgers and stuff. But that was like, I mean, kids they didn't go every day. It wasn't like that was their meal plan every day. That was like, you went on Saturday night with your friends or whatever. That's it. So I think now it's just fast food constantly for a lot of people, and it's not healthy food. It's just not, no matter how we want to rationalize, this is really not healthy food. And so I think that's a lot of it, coupled with the fact that there's just sugar in everything at this point. It's unreal.
Yeah, it really is. And then I think you also added in a layer of movement, and we can probably segue into 75 hard for this, your 2 workouts a day, but I think, you are seeing a lot of kids now who just don't move. I think they sleep, they wake up, they watch TV, or they're on an iPad. They go and sit all day at school. You got PE once a week, where we used to have it every day. I think their recesses, they have 2 a day for 20 minutes. We used to have an hour recess.
Exactly. Yeah.
We had massive soccer game, football game. We were probably burning 500 calories every day at recess.
Right.
And then the kids come home, and I think it's more of, you got 2 working parents a lot. And so they're busy. They do pick up that fast food. They sit their kids in front of a screen, and that's just become kind of normal. And I feel like, man, we're doing our kids such a disservice, if we're not getting them outside. And kids will, whatever normal, they're going to think normal is whatever we expose them to. And so
exactly,
if we make that the norm, they're going to think that's the norm, and that's going to lead to a lifestyle that's just stagnant and not healthy.
The cell phones are a battle. I mean, they're really a battle. And, I even battle that at home with my teenager, our youngest one. I mean, she's on the phone, but she's an ice skater and she gets out there. But yeah, it's a tough one, it's a tough one, but kids do need to get out there more, and they do need to, nobody goes out and plays in the dirt anymore. You know what I mean? And just
my boys do for 2 hours every morning.
That's awesome. And that's the way it needs to be. That's the way it needs to be. And you learn so much about that, creativity and just so many things. It's what kids are supposed to do. It really is what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
I'm so glad my oldest daughter ended up in horses, because she's literally been in the dirt every day. She's been at a farm. She does farm work. She does it all, and so that's been fantastic for her,
Yeah, I love that. I think it should just be normal to go play. My daughter has a couple of neighbor girlfriends that they get home from school. They usually just go play for a couple hours. They play in our backyard. They play in their backyard. We all go up to the park. We swim. We do something active for a couple hours every day when they get home usually. And that should be normal,
And it should be normal for us. Like, we need to get outside. The parents need to get outside. The parents need to go play,
Yes. I have as much fun as they do. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
That's
awesome.
Awesome.
I know. It's great.
Well, I want to talk to you about your 75 hard experience. We kind of bonded through that a little bit. I did it too. I'll link the video below that I did it for, if people want to check that out. But I wanted to hear how you kind of navigated that. And for anybody who doesn't know what 75 hard is, maybe we can give them a little rundown. Do you want to kind of tell them what that is and what it's about?
Well, I'll tell you why I did it. Well, yes, there are certain things you have to do each day. You have to, I see you with your water. Look here. Water.
Cheers.
I'm never away. Cheers. I'm never away from it now. I mean, I thought I was a water drinker until I hit 75 hard, and I was like, yeah, I'm not a water drinker. But now I am. I think I told you that was one of the hardest things, to get that gallon of water, but it's not anymore. So it's easy. So you drink the water, a gallon a day. You do 2 workouts a day. One has to be outside. You read your books, and you read 10 pages. I think I exceeded that. So I was just everywhere reading and stuff like that. So, and you do your picture. And what was the other thing? Am I missing something?
No alcohol, no cheat meals for 75.
Oh, no alcohol, no cheat meals.
Yeah.
And I have to say, on mine, I didn't really, set up a specific diet because I was already eating, really healthy, I felt. So I kind of just went along with my diet and just didn't have I just didn't have ice cream or whatever, So I don't know, did you change your diet like a lot? I didn't really change it a lot, because I was already doing it.
I mean, I do a protein shake for breakfast, and then I fast till like 2 o'clock every day, and I eat meal prep lunch every day. It's the same lunch. It's chicken.
Yeah, so you really were already doing the diet.
I did have to take out some family pizza nights, and
yeah.
And I'll have like a couple whiskeys when my wife and I go on a date, a month or twice a month maybe, and so it goes out. And the family ice cream nights, those really hurt. If I'm not,
yeah, those hurt. So I'll be honest, like for me, and I know there's another phase, so I'm going to challenge you to the other phase. We need to do.
I didn't know that. What is it?
I think there's like a phase 2. I think there's another one where you I don't know. We'll have to talk about that.
You have to find that and send it to me. I'll see what it is.
I think there is, but basically, I really did it. Not as much even for the physical fitness, which obviously it's very physically, demanding. But I did it for just the mental discipline of having to be accountable to myself to do it. That's really why I did it. I wanted the self-discipline of it.
Yeah.
More than
it is more of a mental test.
From it. It really was a mental thing. And that's really why I did it. I didn't do it going, oh, hey, I need to go, I can always do better in working out. I can always do better. So that was a plus. But I mean, I really did it because I wanted to just know that I could do it and know that I had to do it and know that no matter what happened in that day, I had to be accountable to these things. And I mean, I kind of am that way to a certain extent, but I'm accountable to a lot of other people, being a mom and,
I feel like you're spread thin in that area. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But I wanted something where it was like, hey, no matter what happens, I've got to do it. And I have to tell you a couple of times, like we traveled in that time, I was at a horse show for 1 week of that time, and I had to get up and, I stayed in a hotel with the gym. So that was good. But then I was walking at the horse show and, there were a couple times when I didn't get that second one in till like literally 11 o'clock at night. And I was like, I gotta go, I gotta do this, and I just did it. And or I'd walk in the rain. A couple of times I had to walk in the pouring rain. And I know my neighbors were like, what is she doing?
Lori's gone crazy over here, right?
And like waving to them as they go by. And I'm like, I'm just walking in the rain, I'm like out here doing 75 hard. And then I have to explain what that was. They're like, why are you walking in the rain?
That's super funny.
So, Tennessee weather, you don't know, and if you don't know Tennessee weather, it's, it could be 90 one day and 70 the next, or it could be, they say it's going to be really sunny and it's a torrential downpour. So you really don't know. So I just was really proud of myself that I did it, first of all, and that I made it to 75 days and did everything that I was supposed to do and did it no matter what. And that I had to fit it in no matter what we were doing.
That's so awesome. I think that the hardest part is traveling too, right? When you get out of your routine and then you got to plan ahead a lot. And then even like you said, like, okay, you got up and got your workout in the morning, but now you're doing stuff for your family for 10 hours at the horse show. And then you kind of got to wait until the kids go to bed, and now it's 11. And the last thing you want to do is when you're tired and it's day 62 is go out for that walk. But it is,
oh my God,
test, right?
It is like one of those days. I was at the horse show, and I had to go from Ohio, and then I had to drive to Charlotte for a funeral. I had to and then come back to Tennessee. But that drive from Ohio to Charlotte was like 9 hours with traffic and everything. And I was like, so I had to get up in the morning and do the one workout before we left. Then I had to drive. And then by the time I got there, I was just like, put my stuff down. And I was like, I got to go walk. I've got to go do it. And I've got to get it done. I've got to do this, and that was after the 9-hour drive. And it was just tiring. And I was like, this is pretty much the last thing I want to do, but I've got to do it.
Good for you. And I'm proud of you for making it all the way through. That's a major accomplishment. That's awesome. What would you say was probably the best benefit of it? And the one thing that you like, the hardest part, was it the water intake, or what would you say was the
Well, I have to say that in the beginning, there were phases of things that were hard and that were easy.
Hmm.
Well, actually, none of it was easy, but I mean, that were better. So for me in the beginning, I think it was the water. Because I always think I drink a lot of water, but when you're like a gallon, so I had to really figure out, how am I going to get this in? So I have this big cup, and I realized that like 4.5 of these. So then it just became like, okay, I'm just gonna carry this around, and when I'm done, because the measuring of it all. So I think it was the water. I did feel pretty beat up that first couple weeks. I don't know what it was, because I work out anyway, but I don't know what it was about the two.
Your body is made to rest. I'm convinced, you get so sore because you can't work out anything else that isn't already so sore,
Yeah. And I was just, so after I kind of got over the hump of the water, and that was going better, I felt pretty good. And then the other hard part came just kind of maybe at day, maybe in the 60s, when you're just like, I mean,
yeah.
It started to be a routine, but like the bottom of my feet were hurting because I was walking so much. Because a lot of days I'd walk past the 45 minutes. I came to realize I love walking, and so I would walk a lot more. But I was like, no, my feet hurt, or whatever. But I think it was just that last stretch. It was the beginning and then the last stretch.
Yeah. Well, good for you for making it. That's awesome. And yeah, the water, I tell you what, if you ever want to make it easier, come out to Vegas, live in the desert.
Yes.
I had a gallon of water done by 9:30 every day. I mean,
the water was easy. Well, very humid. I mean, I did this, in the summer months of Tennessee. So it's very, very humid. And I mean, I was drinking a lot, but I don't know. It was just, I don't know. Well, but anyway, I'm good with it now.
Congratulations for powering through it. I'm really proud of you. And I think, it was cool to watch your journey and to know what you were kind of going through. Cause on Twitter, I'd see, you'd be like, okay, guys, I'm traveling for a week. And I'd be like, oh, that's going to be rough. I know that's going to be rough,
It is rough. Yeah.
But you're still posting that you got it done and got it taken care of. And that's awesome. I think, shout out to you.
Yeah.
For done. That's awesome. I'm proud of you.
I'm proud of you too. You were about 2 weeks ahead of me.
Yeah, we started a little bit before. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, one other thing I want to go into too is just to kind of transition here. I could just chat with you. I'm talking. I'm wordy, so I was trying. I look down and I'm like, we've been talking for this long already, but I really want to hit your nonprofit and make sure I'm saying this right. Is it because how do you say that?
Casa de Sara.
Casa de Sara. Okay.
Yeah, it just means Sarah's house.
Oh, yes. Okay. Can you tell us the backstory behind that a little bit? And I've been on the website, and I want everybody to know we're going to link Lori's nonprofit below. Please check that out. Give a donation, help her out, and we'll link all that info below. But could you kind of tell people about it a little bit?
Yeah. So everybody always asks me, who's Sarah? That seems to be the first thing. Why is it named Casa de Sara? So a million years ago, when I was in college, I traveled to Mexico frequently, and so you can read the story on the website. But just in a little nutshell, I was there at one point, and there was a little girl who was abandoned. And I always tell people, I don't know, abandoned permanently, abandoned for the day, the week, I don't know. It's a common sight, honestly, in Mexico, in the area that I was in. So, but she was really in rough shape. I mean, crust, kind of caked in her hair, burned feet from walking, dragging a bag of trinkets to sell. And she was probably 4. And we talked, and she told me her name was Sarah. And so, there's always one that just, gets you in the heart, and it was her. And I really, really, really wanted to help her. I wanted to do something. I was asking everybody, does this child live? Who is her family? Where is she from? No one knew, no one cared, it's just, and so there was nothing I could do, at the time I was in college. There was just nothing that I could really do for her. And I didn't know what to do. In a sea of kids that needed a lot of things to do, and so I just had to I gave her some money, and I just had to watch her walk away. And I just watched her until she disappeared. And I just felt so helpless in that moment, of just not being able to help this child.
Mm.
And so I came home and I took her picture that day. Now her picture's on the website. I took her picture that day and it just followed me. I framed it and it just followed me everywhere, you know. And years later, because we didn't adopt our kids till much later in life. And so years and years later, when we went to Bolivia, our oldest daughter is Bolivian, our youngest one is Guatemalan. So we went to Bolivia for our adoption. And that is a whole podcast in itself. Believe me, I have some unbelievable adoption stories of what we went through in both countries. But when we got there, you know, we got our daughter and we had just a lot of issues going on with that. And through that experience, I kind of came to know other things that were going on, like horrible situations in the orphanage that she was in, and horrible situations in other nearby orphanages, and just horrible situations, which literally could be a whole story that I'm happy to get into, but just horrible situations. And I just threw myself into trying to help these situations and really did. You know, there was one orphanage that I had met these Canadian kids that were there, and they were telling me, and they were at the orphanage where our daughter was from. So I met them there that day, and they were like, "Oh, there's this place across town. It is so bad. I'm sure that their kids are being abused there. They're very sick." And so I was like, "Where is it?" So I would go out at night and find these places in the bad areas of Bolivia, and sure enough, it was the most horrific thing ever. And I said, that's it. I am not leaving this country. I'm not leaving these Sarahs, you know, alone. And so I did it. And I came back and I told my husband, you know, I've always wanted to do something for kids, and I'm doing it right now, even through this horrendous adoption that we're having. It wasn't a horrendous adoption, but our daughter was sick too. So we were dealing with that. And so I did. I went over there at night and I got the doctor that was helping my daughter come with me and treat all of these kids, and just a million things that we dealt with over there. And this cab driver that always was with us, you know, taking us places, I drug him out there, and I was like, we have to do something for these kids. And we did. And then in the very end of it, we got the director arrested and thrown in jail. And that was after I came home to the United States, and it was still going on. So at that time, I told my husband, I said, you know, I've always wanted to really help kids. And guess what? I'm going home and I'm doing it. And I don't know how. I do not know the first thing about starting a nonprofit, but I'm just going to do it. And that's what I did. I came home, I figured out every piece of paperwork I had to do. Not only did I start it here, but I also started it in Bolivia. So it's a nonprofit of its own in Bolivia. And so for the first couple of years there, we did medical clinics. And our first project was we worked with the Lions Club, and they gave us like 400 pairs of glasses, and we went to do a vision clinic, and 3,000 people showed up. And that was like 4 months after I got home with my daughter. I went back down there. Wow. And lucky for me, I had a great husband who was like, I'll take care of the baby, you go. And so next time we went back with 23,000 pair of glasses. And I mean, American Airlines took them for us and everything, you know. And just had this huge clinic. And we kind of went on with healthcare clinics for a couple of years, and then realized, and I hate to say it, and I'm going to say it, it's hard to donate, and it's hard to do because those things go in and out the back door. And it's just a fact. If you're not there to make sure it stays there. Yep. So I wanted to be more accountable to the donor, and I wanted to just do bigger things. And so we felt like education is the key. And so started a school. And basically we even to this day, it's still very grassroots, but we focus on early childhood education. And then we also do college scholarships. So we kind of do the beginning, and then we do the end, and we do a lot of things in the middle too, but we just don't have that school. And we still do some healthcare clinics, but mostly we take care of the health care of the kids in the school. So, and I've done some humanitarian projects. I do a project in Guatemala. I do a regular thing there that I do. And in Haiti, we've done some things, in Honduras, and here in Tennessee as well. So kind of done a bunch of different things. But the cab driver that I mentioned that took us around when we adopted our daughter, he's the director of Casa de Sara, Bolivia. He's the one I called when I said, I'm going to start a nonprofit and you're going to help me. And he was like, yeah. And he's just like my brother, like just the most amazing man. You've got to have great people on the other side, which is also not easy.
Mhm.
And I just feel so blessed because Oscar is his name. He is just a godsend. And he really is the face of Casa de Sara in Bolivia now. So,
Lori, I gotta say, I'm literally chilling up here, and it's just when I meet people, and I think you need energy or whatever you want to say, but I just kind of known since day one we've interacted that you're just a great human being. You're a
thank
mom,
you.
a great person, but I can almost get emotional saying it. You just remind me of my wife so much.
Oh, that's so great.
She
I
literally
know
does
that
pretty
she's
much
amazing.
the same stuff, and it's just I'm always in awe of her, and now I'm in awe of you of just seeing people in need. And let's be honest, most people just turn their back and go back to their good life, and
Yeah.
maybe they give a little bit and they pat themselves on the back, but for you to dive head first into that and say, I'm going to make a massive difference here and an impact. And then to me, that just changes the world when you're helping them with early education, you're taking care of their needs. These are kids, there's some kid that you might go through your program, may cure cancer, you know what I mean? And he never would have got that chance had you not
That's the
helped him
thing.
get that start. And to me, that's just how you change the world. And I cannot thank you enough. I'll be a donor after this podcast. And I hope anybody out here listening would check out, what you're doing. That's amazing,
Thank you. It's really just, a lot of people will ask me, well, why did you go to Bolivia when there's people right here? Well, I mean, and we do help people.
My wife gets that a lot too.
We do. We've done several projects here in Knoxville, and we do help people here, and we do. It just happened to be that my experience led me to Bolivia, and that experience of adopting our oldest daughter led me to see the need there. And I always just say, look, it doesn't really matter what corner of the world you're helping in.
Right.
God loves all the corners of the world.
Amen.
So whether it's this piece or that piece, just pick a piece and help somewhere, because it ends up helping everyone in the end. It really does. And our kids that started out, in our preschool and kindergarten, we still see them. We've sent some of them to college. It's not like, I mean, the organization is 3 years old this year. In 2023, it'll be 23 years old. And so it just, it's not like I've done this for 5 years. Now, it's changed a lot through the years. We've had a lot of ups and downs. It took a huge hit during the COVID, and it's still, we're still struggling, but we're doing it and we're not quitting, and it's happening. So, just pick a corner. This is what I say to everybody: pick a corner of the world, pick a corner of anything somewhere, and help out. Leave it a little better than you found it. That's all. Whatever your passion is, if it's helping animals, if it's helping children, if it's the elderly, if it's putting a garden in your community, whatever it is, I just kind of feel like do something a little better than you found it. And I just happened to fall into Bolivia with our adoption, and that's where the place was, and it all started with a little girl in Mexico. It all started with Sarah. She's kind of the one that just for me is, the one that said, hey, this is the reality of the world. It's not like I didn't know, but there's just always that one person that kind of lights your fire,
My wife had a little boy named Mazui who was 3, and he was an orphan, and that's who tugged at her, and she started paying for his school fees, which led her to build schools and clinics and other things over there too.
Yeah, exactly. She found the corner of the world that
when you look back at what your journey is, whoever it might be, it's cool to see how I feel like God or like aligns that for you. And then you have to be bold enough to go at that, which you were. And that takes a lot of courage and a lot of, that's awesome.
Well, I tell you, working in a foreign country is a completely different experience. And everything I did here, I did there as well, starting it there and literally in 23 years, there's been just, the stories and the things we've come up against and the things that we've done. And the places that I've been that I wouldn't necessarily say go do, but like, I've seen C-sections in the most, simple manner get done. And I've been inside one of the most dangerous prisons in South America. I'm not saying anybody should do that. I myself will never do that again. But I have, and it was unbelievable. And I'm really blessed that I'm here to talk about that. Because but the reason that I was there in that particular prison is that when an adult is incarcerated and they have nowhere for their child to go, their child goes too, and they live in the prison. And that's common in certain places. And it was common in this particular place. And it's pretty darn horrific. I'm telling you right now. Crazy. And so the prison at the time, it's been many years when I went. There's no way I'd go now. It's amazing I went then. But, and I went with our director, and he was like, listen, I am Bolivian and I cannot believe we're doing this. You know, we do not want to do this. But the prison inside does not have a school. I mean, the kids are there, but there's no school. So some of them go and come from the prison, but some of them are just there. So when we went, it was because they wanted us to put a school in there. And so I went, and I was just like, I don't think there's a way to do this and make it safe, or even have teachers to be able to come. It was unreal. In fact, that prison is Palosoma prison. I'm sure if anybody's watching it from Bolivia, they know. And that prison has been on national news a few times for riots, and many things go on there. So, it's a pretty crazy place. But so I've had a lot of experiences, in Bolivia. But the people of Bolivia are amazing and fantastic, and they've taught me so much. And it's been an honor to help the kids of Bolivia, or the kids of Guatemala, or the ones here in Knoxville. Is really an honor for me. So that's the way I was at it.
And people are people. You realize that when you travel abroad or help or do any community, wherever, people are people. We all mostly want the same things, and that's just amazing. Well, kudos to you. And I appreciate you sharing that and sharing your story. And I've had chills for the last 5 minutes. So I could probably talk to you for 5 more hours about this, but at some point I'll have to wrap up. I do wrap up every podcast with what I call the rapid fire questions. So can I ask you 5 questions?
Okay.
Kind of give me the first thing that comes to your mind. Does that work out for you?
Yeah.
First one, and I'm interested in this. You're very well traveled. What's the favorite place you've ever traveled to?
Oh my gosh, that's so hard because I love them all. But you know what? I'm gonna say Venice, because that's my little And there's many reasons for that. A lot of people say, I don't like it because it's touristy. It's really not if you know where to go. I'm gonna say that, but I've loved every place I've ever been. But I'll say Venice. Venice is rapid fire.
Hopping on a Vaporetto, driving down there. You're on that.
I love Venice.
Magic. Yeah, that's awesome. What's your favorite workout? Is it walking, what you alluded to too, or do you like lifting or anything else different?
I really love dancing. But here lately, I really am into walking. So I'm going to say walking. I like weights and all of that kind of stuff, but there's something about walking. So I'm going with that for now.
Calms your mind. It's like meditation in motion, I feel like.
Yeah.
What's your favorite food to eat? And do you have like kind of that one kind of a staple to your diet that you kind of hit every day?
It's a steak.
There you go.
It's a steak. I love it. I could, if I could eat that every day.
I love that. What's because we didn't even get really into it, but give me one of your best marriage tips that you could give to people out there.
Oh my gosh. One of my best marriage tips. Let's see. Wow, that's a hard one. I need my husband here for that. I was like, what's our marriage tips? We've been together forever. We just celebrated our 34th.
Oh, congratulations, Lori. That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
So,
I love how highly you talk about your husband too. And it seems like you guys have a great marriage.
Absolutely the best. I guess it is just never forget to just have fun together. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
When you have kids and you're busy and you have jobs and you have a lot of stressors of life that just happen that just is, it's just to still have fun together. And my favorite thing about my husband is he just cracks me up nonstop. He's just, and we have all these little private jokes, that he'll say, and I'm just laughing, and I just love that. He's so funny to me, and he's always keeping me laughing. And, we always try to find a moment just to have fun. And I think that's a big thing. Yeah.
I do too. I think that's very
I
important.
mean, there's a million marriage tips I could say, but I would say that one for now.
I like that. Have fun.
Just have fun. Just remember to have fun.
And well, what's one last piece of advice you'd like to give for anybody out there watching? Is just kind of the final word. And again, guys, thanks for tuning in to Tyrompers No Limit Podcast. It's been Lori, Santoro. We really appreciate you gracing us with your presence, sharing kind of your journey, a lot of wisdom and tips. And I've had a lot of takeaways from this too. And I really appreciate you, just everything that you are about and you put out there into the world. You just make the world a better place. So I want to say thanks from the bottom of my heart. And let's give the last word to you now.
I think the one thing would be, would just try to remember self-care. And that is not what a lot of people think it is. It's not going to the spa. It's not doing this, but it's keeping yourself in a mental, spiritual, physical, healthy place so you can be good for others. That really rang true with me when I was sick and my oldest daughter was 4. It was so hard for me to take care of her and, be sick. So I'm very big on self-care and eating right and all of these things that I can possibly do. I'm still working on sleep, but is remembering time for yourself, no matter how busy you are, for whatever that is that gets you healthy enough so you can be all of these things to your family, to your job, to whatever it is that you have to do. That's really where I am right now. So I'm going to call that my tip for the day, and do good for others too. So
I love it. You can't pour from an empty bucket, right?
You cannot.
Yeah, I love that. Well, guys, thanks again. This is episode number 57. We got Lori Santoro on here. Guys, give her a follow. I'm going to link everything that she does down below, including her nonprofit. Please check that out, guys. Maybe you're feeling a little generous today. Give to that. Let's bless others. Let's bless up. Let's be kind to ourselves and everybody else that we encounter. Go have the best day of your lives, guys. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks so much.